5 things we learned from the Premier League this weekend. Spurs won, Manchester United 0. Spurs have won 3 games against Manchester United this season. The first time they've done a league double over Manchester United in 25 years. And this isn't a great Spurs side. This is a Spurs side that haven't won at home in over 100 days of Premier League football. Absolutely crazy. And Manchester United has just given out wins to other sides. Soft. Lacking in any creativity, lacking in any sustained pressure on the ball. Yes, they created 2 gilt-edged chances. But the first thing I have to say in this video, that we've learned from the Premier League, the back 5 from Ruben Amorim is not going to work on a major level. He, at some point, will have to say, I need an extra man in midfield, and he'll turn into a 4-3-3 manager. He absolutely has to. That is if you think Ruben Amorim is going to be there long enough to see Manchester United try and challenge for the Premier League, try and challenge for the Champions League in the future. That's where Ineos expect them to be. They're nowhere near that, of course. But this flat back 5, it is a 5. Ruben Amorim supporters will call it a 3-4-3. But there's so many times, even on the ball, that Manchester United just had this row of 5 defenders. Got Delot, Mazraoui, Maguire, De Ligt, all in this kind of straight line. And then defensively, they're not like dynamic. I mean, balls coming across from Spurs were always challenging that back 5 that looks slow, that looks sluggish. They lose the extra man in midfield. That's the biggest issue. When you play a back 5, you're basically saying you don't trust your centre-backs enough to be a 2, a partnership. And ultimately, it means that Casemiro and Bruno, who are both in their 30s, completely stretched. Gary Neville called it out on Sky Sports, and rightly so. When I was watching it, craziness. The distance they were covering, absolutely criminal. And the big thing for me is, at too many junctures throughout the game, Delot is the one isolated. At points, you want your right winger, you want Riyad Mahrez to be one-on-one. You want someone like Mamouche, currently at Man City, to be one-on-one. You want Salah to be one-on-one. High at the pitch, everyone else is marked, everyone else is taken, and that's where Salah can shine, for example. With this 3-4-3, 5-2-3, whatever you want to say, Delot is completely isolated. He's whipping things in. They're lumping balls into the box. And despite of how poor and simplistic Manchester United were on the ball, they still created chances. That kind of long looping ball into the box got onto Xerxes, and he missed. Key errors from big men. Garnacho, 10 yards out. He has to hit the target. And then Onana, I think, pushing the ball out to James Maddison. Criminal goalkeeping yet again that goes right under the radar, because it's probably issue number 5, 6 or 7 on the list for Ruben Amorim. So I have to just start the video by saying this system will not work. He's not even getting defense. You're playing a back 5. You're not even getting a defensive protection from that back 5. It's not making you hard to beat. So if your back 5 isn't making you hard to beat and you're not getting your best players on the ball, the system isn't working. There's not been a Premier League winning side with a back 5 since Conte, and that is a very, very long time ago. That was when Guardiola had just come in, wasn't starting to dominate the league yet. What's the last time a Champions League winning side play a back 3? Real Madrid don't, Barcelona don't, Liverpool don't, Man City don't, Arsenal don't. It's just not going to work. It limits too many of your players, and it's not the Manchester United way. That is just obvious. Have to talk about Spurs. Again, their first league double over Manchester United since 1990. Some big performances. We have to talk about the defence. This is one of the leakiest defences in European football. Vicario, I thought, was fantastic. Comes back from an injury. Danso, the new centre-back from Lyon. Unbelievable. The pace, the power. He is a fantastic centre-back from what I've seen. Obviously, very early in his time at Spurs, but I thought he was absolutely fantastic. More dynamic, more higher ceiling than anyone at Man United in the back line. I think that's fair to say. And Spurs have got a little bit of optimism. I think Son played fantastically. Tell is there to the end of the season. And this Spurs side are still in Europe. It's a competition they've obviously never won. There's a small sign of positivity. There has to be, because the Liverpool loss in the League Cup was absolutely embarrassing. This is a big football club, Spurs. Protests outside the stadium. £1 billion stadium in their own right. Huge football club. And they got absolutely dominated by Liverpool in that second leg in the League Cup. So to get back to a 1-0 win, James Maddison giving it back to Roy Keane. We have to say that there are signs of positivity for Spurs. That's something we've learned for sure. And James Maddison, I like James Maddison a lot. I think people give him a lot of stick. No one's calling him world class. No one's saying that he's the next Paul Gascoigne. But he's a top Premier League player. He'd start for anyone. He'd start for Bournemouth. He'd start for Brighton. He'd start for anyone in the top 10 quite easily. I think he gets slagged off too much. I think Roy Keane goes a little bit too deep, a little bit too over the top in certain podcasts that he does. Did it with Haaland as well. Very disrespectful. I mean, I thought there was a players' union. Do you know what I mean? I thought there was a kind of respect, a kinship between fellow players. Slagging off Maddison to that degree I thought was really poor. Spurs' issues this season have probably been down to Ange, down to tactical inflexibility when they've lost big players in the defensive unit. And things did actually start to change against Manchester United. A 1-0 win against Man United is gold dust. Ultimately, Spurs, seeds of optimism, no doubt. We have to talk about Manchester City have just absolutely bullied one of the informed sides, arguably, in the league in the last couple of months, Newcastle United, 4-0. I have to start off at the attacking end of the pitch. Omar Mamouche, a hat-trick for the first time in his career, and doing it in 14 minutes. The first goal, the lob, absolutely outrageous. What I love about it is that when he's scoring a goal like that, you're never sure if it's going to bounce over the crossbar, hit the crossbar. He celebrated. He knew that it was going in. He celebrated before the ball went over the line, which is just a level of arrogance and cockiness and confidence in his own ability that is absolutely lovely to see. And ultimately, I've always been a fan of great defensive midfielders, someone like Fernandinho, someone like Gareth Barry back in the day, Nigel de Jong. I think City have found a little bit of a gem in the base of midfield for Man City. Absolutely outrageous. Nico Gonzalez. I like the fact that he was communicating and ushering other players around him, shouting at players at points. There was a moment where he sort of told Erling Haaland come a little bit shorter for the ball. He didn't lose the ball, basically. I mean, 97% pass completion rate in the base of the midfield. He made Ilkay Gundogan better. He made everyone better around him, even the back line, which kept a clean sheet. Man City kept a clean sheet. Absolutely outrageous. Nico Gonzalez, fantastic player. I think in big games next season, City will be very hard to play against when you've got someone like Kujanov who's settled in. Maybe Victor Rice starts to play in the back line. You know, Ruben Diaz back to full fitness, Nathan Ake, etc. Gvardiol. Then you've got a base of a midfield with Rodri, with Nico Gonzalez, Mamouche. It's going to be very, very dangerous. I thought Man City were balanced, kept the ball very, very well, 63% possession, which is actually a statistic that's been going down in recent weeks, recent months, since the terrible run in form in November. City keeping the ball, City having that Guardiola philosophy. It felt like it was going out the window a little bit, but Mamouche looks like a Guardiola player. He looks like a little bit of Phil Foden. He looks a little bit like Julian Alvarez. He looks a little bit like Riyad Mahrez, all combined. Absolutely fantastic. But I have to bring it back to Nico Gonzalez. Controlled the game, passed it quick and into the feet of Ilkay Gundogan. Unlocked the qualities of Ilkay Gundogan, who had his best game since coming back to Man City. 4-0. 4-0 against Newcastle United. That is the kind of result that is so pivotal. Put massive pressure on Chelsea. Put massive pressure on, I can't believe I'm saying it, Bournemouth. And it kind of cemented City as having a great platform to achieve a fourth place position, even third if City keep winning games. But it was a very, very big win. And Mamouche, I can't believe how good he was. The big thing is Real Madrid in the week. If City had gone to the Bernabeu with a 1-1 draw, 2-2 draw, you can get Mamouche in little pockets. He could score a couple against Real Madrid. This back line for Real Madrid is not great. And City didn't start any of these new guys against Real Madrid at home, which might be a little bit criminal when you look back at it. Look, Mamouche didn't start amazingly well his time at Man City. But now, against Newcastle United, he has displayed a level of quality where he's the first name on the team sheet against Real Madrid. First name. And Nico Gonzalez. And it gives City an unlikely chance of winning against Real Madrid. Seriously, that's how good the performance was against Newcastle United. Liverpool's 2-1 win against Wolves, a little bit underrated. I think this Liverpool side are flagging a little bit, and it's not down to desire or belief or even Arne Slot, what he's telling them. But I saw Liverpool in the final 20, 30 minutes against Wolves, a little bit side to side, prepared to give the ball to Wolves, and obviously Wolves created loads of chances. Cunha scored an unbelievable goal. But it's interesting that it's the first time that Liverpool have failed to register a shot in a Premier League game in the second half since 2003, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. It meant that Liverpool really were sitting off, really were trying to grind out a win. Mohamed Salah, third now of most goals scored in a single stadium in Premier League history. So his numbers are just inching every single week towards unbelievable, untold greatness that we've seen in the Premier League. 23 this season already. And it's February. Got March, April, May. This guy could end up on 35 league goals this season. Absolutely outrageous. If Liverpool draw that game, it opens the door to a world of pain for them, in my opinion. It makes it very, very tight. The League Cup final coming up, the Champions League coming up as well. But winning that game, pivotal. Absolutely pivotal. Just like Man City had to beat Newcastle on some level based on the form of Bournemouth and other sides around them. Liverpool had to beat Wolves, and they did that. It was more of it was probably the most professional performance I've seen from Liverpool. Not great, but very, very crucial for Liverpool this season in the title race. The fifth thing we learned from the Premier League this weekend, Chelsea have got a great chance of falling out of the Champions League positions. Absolutely crazy. They're currently 6th below Bournemouth. Bournemouth have got far better form. They've got a far more dynamic, robust, kind of agile manager that's willing to change things and get results. You couldn't see Chelsea beating Southampton in the same way that Bournemouth did this weekend. I'm sure they would have got over the line. But Chelsea against Brighton, it was so poor. 70% possession. They've lost 5 consecutive away games. Absolutely crazy. Cole Palmer is a false 9. Didn't work. You've sacrificed your best player because of an injury to Jackson, because of an injury to Mark Gu, and it's not working. It really isn't working. They've got so many injuries, and again, every club's got big injuries. But against Brighton, I mean, Brighton are the model that Chelsea are trying to have in themselves, this attacking, expansive side with a load of young players that are getting more valuable every single week. That's what Chelsea want to do on a bigger level, and they're not doing it. They're really not doing it. Maresca said in the press conference after the game, it's as bad as it's ever been since he's taken over at Chelsea, which in the middle of February, you don't want your manager saying that, particularly when you're fighting for honours in Europe. Not the biggest honours, of course not, but still honours in Europe. And the ability to get into the Champions League, it's not good. I'd put money on them not qualifying. I think Newcastle have got a fire to burn. Villa, likewise as well. Bournemouth are above them. I don't think Man City are going to slip out of that now as well. Suddenly the positions, they're getting locked off. Nottingham Forest, I don't think are going to necessarily slip out in the same way that Chelsea currently are. You want this kind of wobble in November. You want this wobble in December. Chelsea had that at the end of December. But to go into February, having your best player play out of position, keeping the ball, and having 0 shots on target throughout the entire game. Absolutely embarrassing. 70% possession, 0 shots on target. That is aimless. That is side to side. That is not what Enzo Maresca was brought in to do. And at the moment, he is failing with his objectives this season. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you very, very soon.